Now, Eustace, we have the Federal Reserve System. Does the Federal Reserve System itself, I happen to think that I've been patriotic most of my life, but the more that I see about this government, I'm not talking about the country because I love my country, but the government to me seems more and more diabolical, and I've seen my friends in business, good quality, hard-working, middle businessmen that are not in business anymore, and something has to be, I mean, there was some reason that they're not in business. It seems to me the giant corporations now own the majority of the wealth of the country. Am I imagining things, or is the small businessman, small farmer, small select individual, are they being financially wiped out?
Well, they're being wiped out by the Federal Reserve System through the Internal Revenue Service. Now, I have a friend named Paul Desfossis. He and I travel around the country lecturing together. He was an IRS agent for 20 years. And the program, he told me, the program of the IRS for the past 10 years has been to close down every small business, every independent, privately owned farm in the United States, because it's easier to control people who have no assets, who have to work for a salary for somebody. And they intend
Well, why would the government do that, Eustace?
For control. They want the Fortune 500 to own everything in the United States, to control all business, so that they don't have to deal with individuals. You see, the federal government has no power over an individual. People don't realize that. You don't even have to talk to an internal revenue agent, because Article 1, Section 8 of the Congress says, Congress shall have power to provide for the common defense, that is, raise armies, and for the common welfare of the United States. Well, the United States means the federal entity. So Congress, no federal entity, has any power over the individual citizen. Only the states can deal with its citizen.
You know, looking back, Eustace, in my childhood, and I'd come home, and you'd see in most homes or cities whether it was in Wisconsin or Georgia or California or New York or wherever, you see nice homes with a picket fence around. You'd see a man coming home after work with a lunch bucket, and he was raising 3 or 4 or 5 children. Normally his wife didn't work. He had probably one car in the garage. He had a nice bus system where he could go to and from work. He had a nice paycheck, and he could actually support his family. One person could support the whole family. And there was silver, that was one of the commodities of the exchange, and you had gold, and I guess even partially at that time, but the value of the money seemed to be so strong in comparison to what we have. Now, we've gone from this situation, Eustace, where a man could stand up and feed his family and be proud, to today we have sometimes 2 and 3 and 4 people working in a family just to support the same lifestyle that my father produced for our family 40 years ago. Now, has the Federal Reserve, does it have anything to do with this change in lifestyle, or the way we have to work so hard just to make ends meet today?
Oh, this has been a deliberately engineered program whereby the wife has to go out and earn a living. She cannot stay home and raise the children. They want the state to control the children. In fact, Hillary Clinton is in the White House today to absolutely ensure that the parents will no longer have any say-so on the life of an American child. They are to become wards of the state. They're to be totally controlled by the state. In other words, after a man and a wife has a child, they no longer will have any authority over that child. The state will have total authority.
Well, that's, of course, the most bizarre thing that I have ever heard in my life. But let's take it one step further. Now, we know there's a Federal Reserve System. We know also that it's privately owned. The stock is privately owned. You and I could never purchase that stock. Nobody in America except this little elitist core. They make billions of dollars, and the majority of the American middle class is suffering from it. We owe over $4 trillion in debt, huge budgets. The government doesn't seem to respond because they're paid off. Would you say that they're paid off one way or another, most of these congressmen and senators?
They're all paid off Well, who did Bill Clinton bring to Washington as his new staff? He got the top insiders, the top lobbyists, the top lawyers in Washington. These are people who are accustomed to earning $500,000 a year. People like that are easy to control because they want to go on earning $500,000 a year, $10,000 a week. And when you pay people that kind of money, you own them. They're never going to object. I don't care. If you tell them, go down there to Texas and murder a bunch of children in a little church, they'll do it.
Now, Eustace, what if we could change this system? What if we took the Federal Reserve and we went back to where our government, with good, solid congressmen, non-lawyers, were running our republic? How long do you think it would take for this country to get back on its feet, be independently wealthy, get rid of its indebtedness, and have money enough so each family and jobs enough could support themselves and live in a substantial standard of living? How long would it take, do you think?
Well, you couldn't do it overnight. It would take about 6 weeks.
In 6 weeks, you're saying if we did get our government back, if we got that Federal Reserve back, and I understand that there's a method we can get that Federal Reserve back. Tell us about that, Eustace.
Well, you see, as a sop to the congressmen who still were not totally convinced about the wisdom of having a Federal Reserve System passed by Congress, the very last part of the Act, Section 34, says, Congress retains the right to alter or repeal this act at any time. Now, all that means is, that language means that tomorrow Congress can meet and say, well, let's buy back the Federal Reserve stock, $144 million, which, by the way, if they appropriated the $144 million to buy back the stock of the Federal Reserve, they would wipe out a $4 trillion debt. That'd be quite a bargain, wouldn't it?
I would think that would be about the bargain of every century that I know of since time began.
And we need a bargain. But that's how simple it is. You see, regardless of all the damage that has been done by these people, by their insidious plotting, by their paranoid conspiracies, that can be corrected. The American people are still sound. I have total faith in the people of this country.
I think they really just need to know the truth, Eustace, and from that truth, I believe that if they knew the truth, that they'd make the correct decisions, don't you think?
Well, why do you think the Federal Reserve bankers control the major television networks? Because they only want their propaganda to go out to the people. They realize that 3 days on television could inform all the American people of everything that's gone on.
Now, Eustace, you and I have been talking briefly here now. In the next couple, 3 minutes, tell us just a thumbnail sketch of what we've learned about the Federal Reserve System.
Well, we learned that it's a criminal syndicate. See, the American people know the mafia is a criminal syndicate, but the mafia is not doing the damage to the American people that the Federal Reserve is. So, therefore, we go after this criminal syndicate, we put them out of business, and what we do is we liberate the people. It would be a new revolution.
Okay, we have the new revolution. We take the Federal Reserve System back. We put people to work. And the reason they go to work is because they have sound money after that. Is that correct?
That's correct. They get a return for their labor. You see, the income tax is a tax on your labor. It's a tax on your property. It is not a tax on income. There is no such thing as income. What you have is the product of your labor, and that's what they're stealing from you.
I really think, Eustace, that we could have such tremendous building and construction across this country. If there was a sound money system, people would be building homes, they would be building their vacation areas, they would be at work. And to me, the biggest thing that this system, the Federal Reserve System, has taken from us as a country and as a family and as a group, and that is the hope for the future. Because today there doesn't seem to be much hope. In other words, you have health problems for the country, you have all crime, you have rampant, everything I think, though, can be related, whether it's the drugs or the S&Ls. I think those things can all be related to the Federal Reserve. Do you think that?
Oh, I certainly do. And the adult middle class is totally convinced there is no hope today, but the young people have not quite realized it yet, and that's why the young people are our hope, because they have no idea how grim things really are.